welcome to Big Whiteboard Wednesday, and today we're going to talk about one of my favourite little terms in surfing, the poo stance. Now, it's really important to get the right stance when you're standing up on a surfboard. One of the big misconceptions that a lot of people have when they come to surfing is that they think that if you're standing up, you're doing it, and if you're not standing up, you're not doing it. And what we try and do in people's first surf lesson is, before they even begin to stand up, while they're still laying down on the board in the whitewater, we get them to slow the board down, to speed it up by moving their weight up and down, and then we talk to them about the difference between trimming turns and carving turns. Trimming turns being where they're leaning on the side and the board's banking a little bit the way they want it to go. Carving turns being when they move right back so the nose comes up in the air, and then they can turn the board in a much smaller circle. They can actually change direction very quickly and powerfully, which you can't do when you're doing a trimming turn. And what they figure out in that first little part of the lesson is that really surfing is all about what you're getting the board to do on the wave, rather than what the surfer's doing on the board. And it involves you having to move your weight right up and down the board a lot. So then we bring them back on the beach and we talk about why it is that you're standing up. And everyone sort of looks around and they're like, well, it looks pretty cool, which it does, but that's not actually why we're doing it. The reason that we're standing up on the board is very simply because it's much easier and quicker to move your weight from the front of the board to the back of the board when you're on your feet than it is when you're lying down. Now, you move your weight around partly by moving your feet, but even more important than that, you need to be able to move your weight in between your feet just by moving your body without having to move your feet. And this is where our intuition really lets us down. Now, one of the things that I love about surfing is that you have this constant battle of sort of instinct against logic. Your instincts almost always let you down in surfing and tell you to do the wrong thing, whereas your logic, that's what actually helps you proceed and move forward. So your poo stance is one of those classic things that intuitively makes a lot of sense, but actually when you do it on a surfboard it doesn't. What a poo stance means is that you're standing with your knees pointing apart. Now, if you think about it in any other sport, that would be great. If you were, playing tennis or badminton, or I don't know, you'd have your knees going apart because you're sort of agile, ready to move in both directions. But when you have your knees going apart in surfing, and you'll have to forgive the crudeness of my little stick man here, but when your knees are going apart in surfing, you end up leaning forwards and backwards with your head and your upper body. Right? Now, when you turn your feet so that they're pointing in towards each other, so it almost feels like you're pigeon-toed, a little bit like if you were doing a snowplow when you were skiing, and your knees point in together, what you can do is move your hips backwards and forwards. See how he's smiling here? So suddenly you can move your weight back so that you can carve a turn, or so that you can stop the board nosediving on a steep drop, and you can move your weight forwards so that you can accelerate or get down a wave so you don't get stuck off the back of it. So it's a really, really important thing to get your head around, and you know what? It looks so much more stylish. It looks so much better when you see a surfer with their knees coming in together rather than going apart in that classic poo stance. We really try and get away from sort of technical surf terminology here at Innocent Surf School. We've got a sort of golden rule that everything that we say has to be very specific, and it has to be completely understandable to someone who's never heard any surf terminology before. But the one term I do like using is the poo stance, because it's pretty funny and it just illustrates so well what it is that you don't want to do. So get those knees in together. That's going to allow you to move your weight up and down. It's going to make you more confident taking off on steeper waves if you're surfing out the back. It's going to make you able to perform carving turns even if you're still surfing in the whitewater. Okay? Thanks for joining me, and see you next time.